Weird, like, thanks, Catherine. You know what's kind of funny is if you guys really have problems sleeping at night, I actually wrote a few books titled Facts and Figures for different years when I was an economist. I don't know if you know that, Catherine. You said Facts and Figures. But actually, when I was an economist, I wrote a book every year for like 4 years, and I just updated it. It was probably really mundane and boring to most, but it was called Facts and Figures.
Facts and Figures.
And it was because we all talk about how we know what's going on in the market, and we either read one CNN article or Fox News, doesn't matter, it's not a political conversation, or we're just in real estate or mortgage, and we think, okay, well, if we say everything's great, then everyone's going to do something. I remember back in my old life, still as a realtor, but as an individual agent, I'd watch the S&P index, the Case-Shiller index for housing every month. And this was before the market went down. So like 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'd watch it go up every month. And I would send an email out to everyone in my database. And I'd be like, hey, the market's going up. Now's a great time to buy before they get even higher. And then 2008 happened, and the market crashed, as you guys know. And then I was sending the email out, and I was like, hey, the market's going down. You know, like prices have never been lower. One of my really good friends, we were out having coffee or lunch, maybe a glass of wine, I'll confess. He's like, hey, Dave, so I really trust you, and I know you have best intentions. And is it really the best time to buy when the market's going up and the best time when the market's going down? And it made me realize, like, I kind of got stuck and I got caught in that rut of like what realtors do, where like it's always a great time to buy, it's always a great time to sell. And we're not in sales, guys, so I stopped that immediately. And I said, I'm going to dig deeper like I used to. So when I was an economist, I dug really deep. In the Case-Shiller index, which I'll talk about in a minute, it's great to show what's going on in any particular city month over month. But it's just one variable. So like Catherine said, there's so many facts and figures and variables. So I want to do 4 things this morning, okay, to really just unpack what's going on in the economy on a national level, and then what's going on in the housing market on a national level, as well as on the local level. Again, I used to be an economist, then I got into real estate and got into that rat race and just get another deal, get another deal, get another deal, and I almost like lost my way a little bit. Most of you guys know my story, and so now we're going to be the economist. Fair enough? Okay. So first of all, I'm going to share some indicators that talk about the overall economy. This is not real estate, all right? So first of all, there's the yield curve, which Alice probably knows better than anyone in the room. And right now, they're projecting that the yield curve over the next 10 years is going to be inverted, which means negative. So what happens is you want the yield curve over 10 years to go like this, which means if you put $100 or $1,000 into a bond today, you get maybe double your money in 10 years. Right now, they're saying if you put that money into a bond, you lose money in 10 years, which means that there might be deflation. It also means that the savings, does anyone have money in a savings account or a money market? A few of y'all? It's like 0, right? Like it's like 0 or 0.111, right? So they're saying that that's not going to change anytime soon. They're saying that if you have cash and you put it into a bond, or you put it into a money market, you put it into savings, and interest rates for your return. Now, guys, hold this conversation separate from mortgage. This is not mortgage interest rates. We're talking about investment rates. We're talking about like what you can get for your cash. They're saying it's going to be potentially negative over the next 10 years. Well, how does that make anyone feel? I mean, I think it would not make me feel too good because I lose some confidence, right? Well, sure enough, every time that the yield curve has been inverted, there's been a recession within 1.5 to 2 years. There's 4 things again we're going to talk about this morning. 1, variables that just kind of unpack the overall economy. 2, what leads to a recession versus what leads to a booming economy overall. 3, does a recession in the housing market have any correlation? You might be surprised with the answer. And then 4, where we are today. Fair enough? All right, so first off, again, the yield curve is projected to be inverted over the next 10 years. That means that there's a pretty good chance, looking at history, because history does repeat itself, right? You know, if every house in your community has never been over 300, and they've been going up like this, and they went from 150 to 300 the last 10 years, there's a better chance it goes back down to 200 than up to 400, fair enough? The home price going get so high, right? Just like anything else. So the yield curve being inverted is the first indicator that most people would say that a recession is coming. That's just one variable. With that being said, inflation has actually been going down over the last year. About 6 months ago it was 3.0, and right now it's 2.1. Now it was negative in 2009. Negative inflation, deflation is not good. might be good for the short run, like that bottle of water goes from $4 to $3. You know, diapers go from 30 to 20, it's really good for me. But overall, it's not good. Like if people own companies, it's not good for the stock market, it's not good for people who have small businesses, it's just not good. Does anyone disagree that deflation is not good? I mean, you need inflation, right? There's more people moving to this world, being born every day, moving to the United States, than there are people leaving or passing away or stop buying things. It's growing, right? So we have to, there's more demand and supply, so inflation has to happen. Is that fair enough? All right. Well, inflation in between 2009 and where we are today, it got as high as about 3.3, and it was 3.1 6 months ago, and now it's back down to 2.1. But it was as high as 4.5 15 years ago, and it was as high as 18% in the late 70s. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means one of two things. Either means that inflation can keep going up for forever, and we'll never have a recession, because inflation is actually a good thing if we can keep up with it, or it means that we're in the new norm. Well, the new norm either means that 3.1, 3.3 from a year ago is the high, or it means that 4.5 from about 12 years ago is the high. If 3.1 to 3.3 is the high, then we already hit that and we're coming back down, which means that we're going towards stagnation and even deflation. Stagnation meaning year over year, water, bread, milk, diapers don't go up. Fair enough? Labor does not go up. Deflation meaning it actually goes backwards. If $15 an hour is the average wage in the United States, it goes to $13.50 or $14. Is this making sense? So there's a question here, guys, that I want your input, and like Catherine was saying, we'll dig into this a little bit deeper later, of what this means. Is inflation supposed to be 4.5% to 5%? Is inflation supposed to be 15 to 18% like in the late 70s? I don't think it should be that high. That's also when interest rates were through the roof. That was a different world. Or is 3.1 to 3.3 the high about 6 months ago? Because if that was the high, then we're going down. And if we're going down, then we're going towards stagnation or deflation, which is another indicator of a recession. Now, again, there's going to be some good news I'll share a little bit later, but I just want to unpack some of these variables for you, okay? Another variable, earlier this year, the stock market hit an all-time high. I'm sure you guys know that. And now it's 4.4% off of that. Okay, so the Dow has been going up year over year, every year for 10 years. We are quadruple what we were during the last recession. And we hit an all-time high this year. So there's two questions. Again, I'm throwing a lot of questions at you. My goal is to give you guys data and then to unpack it, but for y'all to be the experts and for our clients to be the experts. At the end of the day, if your client asks, is our house going to go up or down? The answer is, well, what do you think? And you let them unpack it themselves and self-discover, and you give them the information. Everyone wants to be heard, no one wants to be told. Fair enough? And it can't be taught as to be caught. So you can tell someone something and they'll retain 20%, which is why we're filming this, because you'll probably go back later and go, what's that thing David said? He saw us at New York, fast talking. All right, back to the stock market. Two things here. One, we're uncovering and unpacking the variables that tell the story of the economy. And then two, we're looking at if this variable can lead to a recession or not. And then again, we're going to look at the correlation between a recession and the housing market. And then finally, where do we stand October 2019, right? Okay, so stock market. We hit an all-time high, not 10-year high, but an all-time high 3 months ago. We've gone down 4.4% since then, and we're flat for the year. So many people are saying that it's going to keep going down. It always goes down between September and the end of the year. You know, Brad, who used to be a money manager, money managers, if they already made their goal, kind of just go conservative, move their money to cash. You can't lose if you already made your money for your clients, right? A lot of people have already bought their Christmas gifts, especially with everyone going online. And so people will stop spending in about a month or so. And so you're going to see probably another peel off. And so even if it goes down another 5–10%, the question is that the new norm, or is it going to come back next year? Well, we're at a 10-year high, guys. So if you start here, like 7,500, now the Dow's at almost 27,000. It's 26 right now, but we're almost 27. Is there a better chance that a year from now it goes a little bit down, it's already started, or it just keeps going up for forever? It keeps going up for forever. Does that make sense? What is that?
Better chance it goes down.
Better chance it goes down. Okay, great. I agree with Chris, though. Better chance it goes down. Again, we're not going to get to, for a few more minutes, what that means for the housing market before a recession, when the stock market goes down. Again, first what we're doing, guys, is we're talking about economic indicators that can lead to a recession. and then we'll talk about the correlation of recession in the housing market, and then where we are today. So if the stock market goes down, you think that means there's a better chance of recession or a lesser chance? Better chance, right? Because if you have less money in your stock account, you lose consumer confidence. If you lose consumer confidence, and oh, by the way, inflation has not hit its normal high, and prices can still go up here, and so you have less buying power, and you don't want to spend money because you have less confidence, what do you think you do? You stop, right? And when you stop, demand goes down. So yes, correlation, we're not talking about the housing market yet, but correlation between the stock market and recession, absolutely. If the stock market went down 2,000 points today, we'd be in a recession next week, just because people would just stop. I don't know that's going to happen, but we're just moving in that direction. Fair enough? About a year ago, guys, if you remember, we went down about 1,200 points in 2 days because some talks with China. And those kind of things are still happening, and it doesn't matter like a tweet or a conversation. It's not, again, not a political conversation. At the end of the day, when the stock market's this high, and people are thinking, should I keep buying? First of all, more and more people are peeling off and putting their money in cash. And again, guys, they're putting their money in cash even though, what did we talk about when we first started? The yield curve is going inverted. They're putting their money in cash even though they can't put it into bonds. They can't put it into savings. Someone has $1 million, 100,000, even 10,000. They're not going to make any money in savings. They're not going to make any money in the money market. They're not going to make any money in bonds. Why do they pull out? Because they're scared. Fear of people shut down. You look back in 2008, you look back in 9/11, the dot-com bust, you go back in time. At the end of the day, logic makes people think, but it's the emotional side of consumers that makes people act. And so the stock market starts going down, and Chris was like, I think you're spot on. I mean, prices can only get so high before they start coming back down. What happens to the economy? I think it starts slowing, which leads to a recession. The next indicator is GDP. Glenn and I were talking about this earlier. GDP needs to be negative for 2 straight quarters, and then you're in a recession. Like that's the kind of like the end-all be-all recession indicator. And a lot of other things lead to GDP. GDP means that the United States, we're talking about the United States economy, by the way, guys. There's other countries, especially in Europe, that have an impact on the United States. Canada has an impact on the United States, but we're talking about the United States. GDP has gone down the last 2 quarters. We went from 3.1 to 2.0, and it's projected to go down again this quarter. Again, it's still positive, so there's no recession. I mean, if the media said we're in a recession right now, that's actually wrong, because you can't be in a recession with positive GDP if people are still building. Does that make sense? Manufacturing is still occurring, but it's slowing. So again, another indicator that like, there's no argument here. At the end of the day, if we had 2 straight negative quarters, we'd be in a recession. Now we're not negative, we're still positive. 2.0 is still healthy, but after from 3.1, quarter before that was about 2.7, we should be about 2.5 right now, so we're a little bit below. So I want you guys to think about something again. Again, we're going to keep unpacking all this and show you how it all ties together and tell a story about the economy and what it could look like for a recession. So inflation is not as high as it could be. I don't know if it could be 3.3 and we're at 2.5. I don't know if it could be 4.9 and we're at 2.5. I don't know if we can get to 17 and we're at 2.5. But we all agree that it's too low. Fair enough? And inflation, you can't stop. No one small business can say, we're going to charge less for our coffee and bring more customers. At the end of the day, there's the demand, and prices have to go up because the demand has to happen on commodities. My little guy Knox, I'm doing everything in my power to get him potty trained for so many reasons, and he still shakes it. And what's the face for, Megan? Oh, Megan also going through this? Yeah. For many reasons, one of them being we can save about $300 a month on diapers, but until my son stops peeing and pooping on the floor and no diaper on, I'm buying diapers. I mean, Brady, you've gone through that before. Jimmy going through that right now. We just went through that, right? And so here's the thing, there's commodities. So here's the bottom line. Customers have to buy things. They have to buy bread. They have to buy milk. They have to buy diapers if they have little ones. They have to build. They build houses. They need to pay for gas. There's so many things that have to happen. Labor has to happen. So inflation has to go up. What happens if it doesn't? So that's another variable where the question is it going to go back up or is it going down? So the stock market has been going down. Inflation has been going down. GDP has been going down. So far, 3 of the main economic variables that indicate that we're going towards a recession have all occurred in real time in the last 6 months. Let's talk about one variable that is related to the housing market that could be attached to the recession, and that's the Case-Shiller Housing Index. In February 2007, that was the old high before the recession. Recession was somewhere between 6 and 8. And by the way, guys, the reason you never know exactly when a recession hits is because what is real estate? Local, right? Same with the economy. The economy moves in different places all around the country. If I ask someone, what is the gas price, you'd say where? Because in South Carolina, it's cheaper than North Carolina. North Carolina is cheaper than Virginia, and Virginia is 3 times less than California. Everything is local, even the overall national economy. Is that fair enough? Because New York City and San Francisco are already going down in prices. Okay, so the Case-Shiller Housing Index. The Case-Shiller Housing Index was a high of 184 in February of 2007. It was never higher than that before that. And it just went really low after that until we came out of the recession in about early 2014. That's when we came out of the recession, late 13, early 14. Again, different cities in the country started seeing the recession going away sooner than later. So 184 in February of 2007. Right now, guys, we're at 210. That's the Case-Shiller Housing Index for the United States. That's all major cities, about 35 major MSAs. And using an aggregate of that, we're at 210. So perspective again, guys. The old high was 184 before the last recession. We're at 210. 10% on 184 puts us at 202. 20% puts us where we are right now. Right? I mean, fair enough. A little bit higher than where we are right now. So we're about 17% above old high. So going back to what Crystal said, well, the stock market was at an all-time high, and it's been going down a little bit, 4.4% off. And you said you feel like the stock market's going to keep going down. What do you think about the Case-Shiller Index? It's just one index for the housing market. But if we're at 210 right now, and in 2007, February 2007, the high was 184, how much higher can the new high be? Is that the number? So that housing index talks about prices in a particular city year over year. They do the mean, so not the median, middle, but the average of home prices in a particular city across the whole country. They use about 30, 35 major markets. So they look like Charlotte and Atlanta, and Austin, and New York City, and Philadelphia, and Seattle, and Dallas. And what happened was, leading up to February 2007, prices kept going up, 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 and up. And then in March of 07, they started going down. Then in early 2014, they started going up again. And so our old high, 184, our new high, 210. That's not 210,000. It's an index. Yeah. It's an index of taking all the cities, how much it goes up or down. There's a formula to use. It's not really that important. It's kind of like you go to your favorite restaurant and it tastes good. You don't ask how. Like you don't even ask the calories. Now that I see calories, I don't eat half the stuff I thought it was good for me. It doesn't matter how it happens. The point is the index was never higher than 184 in February 2007. Then we hit a recession. The index is now 210. 210. So you're thinking about, if you think about selling your house and it's worth 300 right now, and the old high was, when you bought it, you feel like you paid top dollar at 180. Now it's at 300. You just watched it go from 180 to 300. And it never was higher than 180 ever. It was built in 1979. What do you think? It's never been higher than 300. And when you bought it, it was never higher than 180. You're like, I'm getting out. Well, the Case-Shiller Index is pretty accurate because it has such a large aggregate from its sample size. So that's another variable. Okay, so just unpacking all of that, the Case-Shiller Housing Index has never been higher than it was last month across 30 major markets. Inflation is going down, and the question is just, can it come back up, or is it going on a downward path? GDP has started also going down, and the stock market is about flat for the year, but like Christos was saying, its high already happened this year, all time. Next variable, interest rates. Mortgage interest rates are not far off from all-time lows. The all-time lows were in June of 2016, 3.65. And Alex can say what it is this morning. What's the interest rate as of this morning on a 30-year fix?
Yeah, I mean, you can find probably 3.65, 3.75.
So right around that. So it's close to the all-time low, right?
Yeah, we're in there.
We're right there. So Alex said we're within maybe 10 basis points of all-time low. Not 3-year lows, not 5-year lows, not 10-year lows. All-time lows. Well, when do you think the mortgage interest rate is at all-time lows? Again, we're not talking about the housing market yet. I'm talking about variables that may indicate a recession, and then we're going to look at the correlation between the recession and the housing market, and then we're going to tie this all together with where we are today. So if you're the Fed and you're thinking, you know, mortgage interest rates are too low, we need to raise them, why would you not raise interest rates? Well, if you ask the government, they'll say we can't raise interest rates if there's not enough buyers out there. You guys remember in 2008 and 9 when they had the $7,500 tax credit and the $8,000 tax credit, and they were basically paying buyers to buy homes?
Oh yeah.
That's really crazy, right? That's not much different than the interest rate, guys. I mean, you have to remember that. I mean, don't just because it's not a credit, just because it's not a fee, keeping interest rates at all-time lows means that the government doesn't have confidence that they raised the rate, which they did a year ago. What happened? Last October, November, the stock market went down and the housing market went down overnight. The government has not had confidence since the last bust that our housing market would come back to where it should be if they let rates go up. Is that fair enough? All right. So it's not all bad news though. I just want to first just kind of lay out the foundation like Catherine said, facts and figures. Okay, so those are 5 variables that are probably the most important ones. The mortgage interest rate, the 10-year yield curve, inflation, the stock market, and GDP. Is that fair enough? It's all national variables that are very powerful looking at the United States economy. Okay. Next is where are we regarding recession? Well, recessions always happen every 7 to 8 years. This has started since before the Great Depression in 1929, guys. So it's not going to change. The question then would be, well, if you know it's every 7 years, why would we not know when it is? And the answer is we don't know exactly when the last one ended. You know, because some people say, or even when that one started. Some people say that the last recession started in early 06 and ended in early 12. I believe it started in late 08 and ended in early 14. Depending on what variables you look at. GDP is going to say that the recession started in early 2006. And you might be thinking, if you were in real estate, I know a few of us, Meg and Catherine were, myself, you might be thinking, that's weird because the housing market kept going up. We'll talk about that in a moment. There might not be a correlation between recession and the housing market, guys. So do we want to be the economist? Do we want to be the trusted advisor? Do we want to be their broker of choice, or all of the above? For a long time, I even believed that recession and housing market were tied together. And a few years ago, I really dug deep and really started unpacking just generations of comparing the recession to the housing market and the ebbs and flows. And I saw some really interesting things. So again, 5 variables, 5 of the most important variables, all say the recession is coming. Fair enough? I mean, it has to happen, right? Every 7 years. If you believe that the last recession ended in 2012, then 7 years is when? Yesterday? If you believe the last recession ended in early 2014, then 7 years is when? Early 21. So somewhere between, it's not rocket science. Now, we are rocket scientists, guys, because real estate is life or death. I truly believe this with all my heart. You know, marriages are saved in lofts. We brought people into this world. I actually brought a baby that I did not know into my kitchen, into this world. About a year ago in my house, we've lost loved ones. We were sent to heaven from hospice, in homes. It is life or death. I mean, it's so important, biggest financial decision. So it is important for us to be the economists, for us to be the rocket scientists. I truly believe that. I put a lot of effort into this just for myself and for our gang because it's so important. It's just so important if this is your career and passion for us to give everything we can for anyone that gives us a chance. Fair enough? So somewhere between yesterday, today, tomorrow, and about a year and a half from now, we're going to be in a recession. Does anyone disagree with that, or we agree? Okay. All right. So that is a fact. That is a fact. The next question is, are we in one right now? And we already talked about the GDP, which is the leading indicator, and the answer is no. So that's an easy one. Now, what we're all here for, what does that mean for the housing market? Well, in the last 5 recessions, the good news, guys, is 3 of the last 5 recessions actually saw an increase in housing prices. You guys hear that? In the last 5 recessions, 3 of them actually saw an increase in housing prices. Only 1991 and 2008 were the 2 recessions where the housing market went down. And you're thinking, how's that impossible? Well, first off, what happens when home prices go down? What do buyers do? They buy, right? Okay, so Econ 101. I'm gonna give you guys a little freebie here. Econ 101. When demand goes up, when there's more buyers, because that can move faster than supply, right? We can't build another country club, we can't build more houses tomorrow, but buyers can decide to do something, right? Like the stock market crashes and people say, I'm gonna move my money somewhere else, or if interest rates really get low. I mean, Alex, right, don't you have people that one day they say they're not gonna do anything, the next day they say yes, or vice versa?
Yep.
Supply does not move as fast as demand, is that fair enough? Buyers can make decisions faster than builders can build, right? And I feel like Brian will attest to that. You know, you can't build, Amy knows this. I mean, no matter how much a builder wants to, it takes 3 to 6, 9, 12, 18 months to build. A buyer can make a decision in 10 seconds. So if prices go down, demand actually goes up. I don't think we think about that a lot. Now, what does that mean for sellers? This is an easy one, guys. If prices go down.
They also want to buy. They're moving up.
Well, if they're looking to move up, then they're definitely going to still sell and buy. So absolutely, Cindy's right. So here's a question for you guys. There's two big ones here. One is when the recession comes, which it is the housing market going to go up or down? Because if it's going to go down this time, which means 3 of the last 6 times it's gone down, 3 of the last 6 times it's gone up, kind of evens it out. It's probably a little bit better than 50-50 chance that's going to happen. Then that's good for buyers, but bad for who? Sellers, right? So how do we have that conversation with our sellers? We'll talk more about that later. If you believe the next housing market is going to go up, we'll talk in a moment about variables that can give a heads up on what this means and what direction it should be going. If the housing market goes up in the next year, year and a half because of a recession, what does that mean for buyers? It's hard, right? Housing market goes up, prices go up. When I'm talking about the housing market going up and down, that's pricing. Because if pricing goes down, it means that either supply went up or demand went down. And if pricing goes up, it means either supply went down or demand went up. But regardless, if the housing market goes down, prices go down. Housing market goes up, prices go up. Fair enough? Okay. So we all agree that there's going to be a recession between tomorrow, which is possible, and a year and a half, which is likely. Somewhere between now and a year and a half now, we're going to have a recession. And it seems like we're leaning towards the housing market going down in the next recession because 3 of the last 5 went up. So maybe that kind of evens it out. Does anyone think it's going to go up? No? You guys don't think it's going to go down?
Time on market's already increasing.
Because the time of market's increasing, that's another housing market variable. And then you go back to the Case-Shiller index. The old high was 184, which is pretty darn high. It was an all-time high, roughly 210. It's almost 20% above. So the odds are, yes, that we're really high right now. So the question, yes?
Well, I read that residential construction as a percentage of GDP is like the lowest it's been in a while. So that's, I guess, speaks to what you're saying, that the supply's not going to be there.
But now, Glenn makes a great point. Glenn said that residential construction is at an all-time low. The percentage of GDP. So there's 2 things there. One, GDP has been pretty strong over the last few years, so that makes a larger standard deviation, where if GDP is really low, even if building goes down, it's a larger percentage. So it's hard for that to be end-all be-all. But 2, if building goes down, what does that mean for supply? It goes down. And if supply goes down, the prices will go up. Okay, so now so we got the red hat in the room, so that's good. Like, we have someone who's thinking that inventory is not going to grow and supply is not going to grow. And so now the question is that like the Emmy Awards where like I've run out of time and I start playing music in the background to get me off stage and I'm still like thanking like my neighbor's grandma's mailman? Well, I'll tie a ball around this and we'll talk more afterwards, like Catherine said. So here are the biggest takeaways and questions. The biggest takeaways, and please either take notes, put in your phone, post it, whatever you want. This is for our clients to know, for us to know and our clients to know. The 5 leading indicators of recession are all happening. The only one we're not positive of is GDP. GDP has started going down, and the question is it going to come back? Inflation as well is starting to go down, and the question is that going to come back? But I think the new norm is where we are. So one more time, inflation is going down. GDP is going down. The stock market has been going down 4.4%, and some of y'all think that it already hit its high. Interest rates are about to hit all-time low. Case-Shiller index has never been higher. So that's from a price standpoint. It seems like everything is leading towards that recession. And so then one of the questions is, if it's between now and a year and a half from now, when is it? Well, my thoughts are it's going to be next summer. That's a recession. We're not talking about the housing market yet. We've heard some things. We've heard some people saying the next recession is going to lead to a housing bust. Know this. There's probably a lot of other people that recognize this. I feel like we've heard about this at least once or twice. I feel like you turn on at least one or two channels, you hear about the election. You know, there's at least 1 or 2 or 30 people running for president right now, and they're not all big fans of each other. That's neither here nor there, but the point is the American public knows there's an election happening. Forget about the recession for a moment. On the back end, historically, the 4 months after an election, 2016 was the first time in history of data, almost 100 years, where the housing market actually went up in the 4 months after the election. So 2 things. 1, the housing market was supposed to go down in early 17, and it didn't. Right, that's first. Second, every other time it has, regardless of how strong or weak the market is. So the odds are that after the election, the housing market will see a dip. That's more of a short-term, superficial one, but it's good for us to know. On the front end, regardless if it's Republican or Democrat, this is something, again, guys, I want to remind you of something. Logic makes people think. They don't act on logic. They don't act on logic. No matter how low supply is, they act on emotion. They act on emotion. It doesn't matter how low supply is, okay? I want you guys to remember that fact because what I'm going to say next. Sometime next summer, spring's going to have a little bit of a boom most likely. Sometime next summer, forget about the housing market, forget about the recession. The media is going to start talking about these variables that we're talking about at a very high level. Because regardless if it's a Republican in office and a Democrat wanting to get in office or vice versa. It's happened to both sides. It happened in 2008. It happened in 2000. The last 2 presidents were 2 terms. So it was 2000, happened in 2004, where they talked about how the mortgage industry was starting to feel the ripples. Every 4 to 8 years, depending on the economic situation and the White House, the other side, the Democrats, when they're looking to be in office next year, the Republicans, when they're looking to be in office in 2000 and 2008, right? It's gone back and forth the last 8 years, historically for a while now, since H.W. Bush in 96 when he moved over to Clinton. What happens is the media will talk about these variables that you're not hearing about right now. Everything I just shared with you is staying quiet right now because, again, people don't think on emotion. They actually act on emotion. People don't act on logic. They think on logic. So you might be thinking logically, this is out there now. How come it's not mainstream media just yet? Well, it's not convenient just yet, and it hasn't been for decades. So the reason that election year usually sees a dip in either the economy, the housing market, or both is because whoever is not in office is going to use that to their advantage, if at all possible. Is that fair enough? So next year, if you have all these variables that are very accurate, and oh, by the way, unemployment, which I actually don't look at as one of the main variables that everyone else does, unemployment is at all-time lows and it keeps getting lower. The challenge is, guys, if everyone has a $13 an hour to $40,000 an hour a year job, but they really need $18 an hour to $60,000 because the cost of everything else has gotten so high, and inflation is supposed to keep going up, right? Then everyone has a job and no one can afford to buy the commodities and goods and homes. Does that make sense?
Underemployment.
Yeah, they're underemployed. Everyone has a job, but they're underemployed. Fair enough. Thank you, Kathy. So I expect that in early summer, late spring, a lot of the election year conversation will be around, this is similar to 2008. Now it's not similar to 2008 because the housing market grew on a very healthy pace, and it grew on down payment, and it grew on real income and real debt to income ratios, and it grew on A and B paper. So it's not going to bust like it did 2008 or 1929. There's no tech bust happening from a bubble or anything like that. But I can almost guarantee you that they're going to talk about how the economy is collapsing. And it is. I mean, not a catastrophic depression like 08 or 29, but there is a recession coming. So if we all agree, guys, I'm just going to tie this all together here in a moment. If we all agree, and raise your hand if you don't, that sometime between tomorrow and a year and a half from now, we're going to be in a recession. And a year and a month from now, we have an election, which is almost at the end of that. Is it possible that both sides, both the Republican side and the opposition, the Democrats, is it possible they have really smart economists that are looking at where the economy stands right now and saying, wait a minute, the recession's any day now. I mean, if we can talk about it, we'd love for it not to happen, but it has to happen. Again, half of the public actually benefits from a recession. We need a correction. Is it possible that's going to become mainstream media? Is it possible that the best message possible for whoever is not in office is to say, look, just so you know, your president is leading a recession right now. We're about to be in a recession. Or do you stay quiet until after the election? Who thinks you stay quiet until after the election? It's kind of like if you hear something bad about someone. Unfortunately, guys, American politics, this is not even dirty. This is just stating facts. So that's going to happen. That's 100%, guys. I will guarantee you sometime between March and July, you'll hear about a recession about to happen. And it's going to scare people. I don't know if that means that the Democrat wins or President Trump gets reelected. It's not a political conversation, but it's going to scare people. And when it scares people, what do people do in this fear? Stop, right? After 9/11, everyone said they're going to start saving and stop spending. You know what they do now? They stopped saving and they started spending. It's short term, but it's enough to change the president, potentially. So it's going to happen. So the recession is most likely going to start next summer. Is that fair enough? Now, I think the president is going to keep pushing manufacturing and growth for the GDP, which will help from actually having a real recession, potentially. But sometime in the next year or so, we are going to have a recession. What does that mean in the housing market? Well, I believe the housing prices are too high, guys. I think prices are too high. And if you look at North America, on the north side in Canada, Vancouver already went down 2 years ago. Toronto went down about a year and 4 months ago. The Bay Area started going down about 9 months ago, and New York City is feeling it now. And so next up is most likely the mid-sized cities, the mid to large-sized cities. Everything else in the higher level, larger size. Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, some Miami. Then it's second homes. Fort Lauderdale, Charleston, anything on the coast. And then it's smaller to mid-sized cities like Charlotte, like Kansas City, like Austin, like Dallas, like Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, like Orlando. Does it make sense, guys? Like Philadelphia and Boston. And so the question is not when is recession. The question is not if the recession is going to happen. I believe the recession is absolutely going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. See, we talk about 18 months. I don't think that's going to happen, guys. I think the recession happens before next November for many reasons, most likely. And the question is just the housing market. So my opinion is I'm going to bet on housing prices have never been higher in history. Mortgage rates have never been lower in history. And we're still going to a recession. So what does that mean? It means a recession is going to come first. And every other time a recession means a housing boost, this time people are going to freak out thinking of 2008. And because prices are already so high, because days of market has already picked up, and some cities have already gone down in Canada and in the larger coast of the United States, I believe we are going to see a smaller drop in real estate. Last time the drop was about 23%. This time it's more like 12 to 15. But again, I heard some of you guys say this. It's going to be an amazing time for people to buy in the next 1 to 3 years. It's still a great time because of interest rates, but if someone's paying cash, they should not be buying right now. If someone's paying cash, they should not be buying the stock market right now. If someone has cash, they should take their cash and put it on the sidelines and wait. Is that fair enough? And so if you have anyone who is a homeowner, client, and they're thinking about moving the next 5 years, they should be selling yesterday. If you have anyone who's looking to buy and get an all-time low rate, they should do it right now. Prices will go down, but if you're getting a loan, you're actually going to have more of a savings in your payment with a lower rate than a lower price. But if someone's paying cash and they have to sell before they buy, and they're going to have a lot of cash, unless they're doing a 1031, they need to park that money. Not put it in the stock market, not put it in bonds or mutual funds or money market. You need to park that money. Fair enough? Anyone have any questions? Kind of threw a lot at you. I mean, yes, Alex.
So I have a client that's actually, they're from a foreign country, and so they're working on doing a cash deal here, like within like the next 6 months, because she wants a place to live, but she doesn't want to rent and that sort of thing. How do you have that conversation with your client about, hey, like I want to be able to leverage the fact that you're using an all-cash deal to get you a better deal on a house. However, I also don't want you to put your money at risk because she doesn't have an American credit.
Yeah, so the question is, absolutely, that's a great question, Alex. So the question is, Alex has an international client moving to the United States and they have cash. Two things. First and foremost, if they don't have a job here where they can just wait another 6 months and get a loan, then they might just want to do it whenever they find the right home. Secondly, we're about to go into a couple of opportunities to get a good deal. First of all, we're in October. So October, November, December are the 3 best months of the year to get a good deal. If something's on the market right now, it's a motivated seller. No one's like, oh man, I really want to put my house in the market when the leaves start falling. I really want to put my house in the market when I have to cover the pool. And when I can't sit outside, I know if it's outside, it starts getting cold. Most parts of the country, guys, are already starting to see snow and hail and ice. So the housing market being this strong right now, this time of year, is not common. And so if someone's paying cash right now, they should start looking. Just don't be in a rush. If you find a good deal, either find a good deal and jump on a good deal, or make lowball offers on 3 to 5, 10 properties. I've told people that. If you have cash right now and you want to buy, if it's an investment, don't do it unless you get a really good deal. If you get a really good deal, great. But if you want to buy, it's either your perfect home, there's no such thing as perfect, but close to your perfect home, or Alex, find 3 homes and start low on all of them. Let's say they're all 300,000, find what terms matter most and start in the low 2s on all of them. One person may say a 4-letter word or 2 at you, one person may ignore you, and one person may actually respond, and then one of the other 2 people will respond in December. So yes, if you're paying cash, to Alex's point, regardless if you're paying cash or getting a loan, the next 3 months are the best time of the year to buy. And then secondly, after January, the market starts picking up. After the Super Bowl, it really picks up. Again, you guys are probably thinking, really after the Super Bowl, what does that really matter? It does matter. When football season is over, guys, it's all about emotion. Logic does not play into this a lot. Our job is to cut the emotion out, right, Brad? Cut out emotion with clients. You have a client right now that you're helping a lot with, quite emotional. The logic is where we step in, guys. The logic is where we step in. So Alex, you're absolutely right. You say, look, I will not let you pay top dollar with cash. If you're getting a loan, you can pay top dollar, because even if the market goes down, you got an all-time low rate, your payment's still lower than your neighbor a year from now. But with cash, you're gonna be a little more patient. Or you're just gonna offer to make lowball offers on multiple properties and find a win-win with the other side. Does that make sense?
And that's what I've kind of told them too. So they, it's gonna take like a process and a time period for them to actually get sufficient funds out of.
By the time they have the cash, the market may have already seen a little bit of a dip.
Exactly.
Just start watching.
They were like, well, we just want to put like a huge earnest money deposit down on a house. I was like, yeah, but that kind of ruins the point of like having the leverage of doing an all-cash deal.
Unless you can negotiate really good terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have cash, you should be looking for really good deals. I would not just buy a home tomorrow with cash, unless you're looking for really good deals. But if you're looking to buy with financing, the rates getting lower than all-time lows, probably not, right? Like we're finally getting back, as Alex said, we're finally getting back to where the all-time low was. Everything's getting back to either all-time highs or all-time lows, guys, depending on what variable it is. Does that make sense? So everything's kind of like on the edge, right? And the only thing, to Glenn's point, the only variable that may say that the housing market continues going up for forever is if there's available land which is local. There might be areas in particular cities where the housing market keeps going up and other times go down. That's another thing I want to remind you guys. But if you have someone looking to move in the next 5 years, the odds are against, challenge me on this, the odds are against the housing market going up higher than it is today anytime in the next 5 years. And the last variable to essentially guarantee that for you guys is a lot of people think the stock market goes down, I move my money to cash. Move my money to cash and then to real estate. I'll just move my investments over. Yeah, that's logic. What happens if Christos is like, I've got $80,000 in the stock market. I've got $40,000 in the stock market. Does that get you excited to move the 40 out and buy a house? Or does that get you excited to move the 40,000 out and put it in a shoebox? Shoebox, right? So logic is thinking if the stock market's going down, the housing market's going to go up. That doesn't happen, guys. God bless you. When the stock market goes down, you know what happens? The economy goes down. Because the stock market's going down, it means that companies are struggling. They're suffering, and that means inflation's been going up and profits are going down. And it means the employees are not getting the raises, pensions going away, they're not getting their bonuses, salaries are not going up. See how this is all starting to kind of tie together? So, in my opinion, marching orders, like I tell all my friends this every day, if you need to sell in the next 5 years, if you're looking to buy your dream home 2 to 3 years from now, do it now. If you can do it right now at all-time low rates, do it now. If you're looking to sell in the next 5 years, your kids are getting older and you want to downsize, do it now. And if you can't find the right home, if you don't have enough money to put down in your home, then just rent. And oh, by the way, if your home price goes down the next 2 years, when it's time to sell and buy, you just lost your equity. That's your equity you're going to use for the down payment of the new home. So now you've lost your equity in the down payment for the new home, and interest rates are higher. So your payment is higher, and you don't have the money to put down in your home anymore, but prices are lower. Does it matter how low prices are? I mean, does it matter how low prices are? So you can tell me there's a free direct flight to any country that's more than a 10-hour flight, and it's free, and I'm not going anytime soon, guys. I mean, unless you like give me a tranquilizer in my neck, like 5-6 hours is about the most before I'm like, I don't really like flying. I don't really like flying. So there's no value to me even at zero. Does that make sense? So prices go down 20%, and they've lost all their equity here, and they're all excited about the lower price. They can finally buy their dream home, but now interest rates are higher, and obviously the first one to test this, now their debt-to-income ratio is out of whack, and now their down payment is strong, which means that their loan amount goes up even more. See where I'm going with this, guys? Do you guys see any indicator that there's not a recession coming in the next 6 to 18 months, and that the housing market does not drop sometime around the same time frame? Again, the good news is if you tell your sellers now, and they want to do something in the next 5 years, they should do something. And the good news is if someone's getting a loan, they're going to have a lower payment than their neighbor who has a lower price. And then if someone's paying cash, I would just be patient, start making low offers everywhere. And if your money's in the stock market and it's not attached to a pre-taxable retirement account where you're going to pay penalties and taxes by pulling it out, I'd probably cut my losses and pull it out now and move that money to cash. And then if you can use that as a down payment for a house, put down 5, 10, 20%, use the rest in a loan. So last thing, just tie a bow around all this. We just talked about how the stock market and real estate are correlated, but not in the way that a lot of people think. A lot of people think the stock market goes down, people move their money to real estate. No, when the stock market goes down, most people do what Christos said, and they move their money to a shoebox. Because they're like, Wachovia, you guys remember that? People had their life savings in Wachovia. It goes from $2 million to 300,000. That last 300,000 is underneath their mattress, guys. Absolutely, that was horrible. That kind of stuff can't happen again. It won't get down to 7,000, but it'll probably get down to 20. It probably will. So here's the thing, the last thing to remind you guys. Historically, the stock market and real estate, depending on what variables you look at, are fairly similar. It's roughly 4% after inflation for both sides. If inflation's 4%, that's 8%. If inflation's 3%, that's 7%. It's roughly 7 to 9% growth year over year for both sides, including inflation. Okay, so if someone has $5 and they put it into either investment, it'll be worth roughly the same in 10 years. The big difference is you put $5,000 down on a house, you have a $100,000 asset. You put $5,000 down on a stock, you have a $5,000 asset. That's what I'm talking about with cash. You better be getting a good deal because you're not getting the benefit of the low interest rates and you're not getting the benefit of leverage. Does that make sense? So if someone's thinking, what should I do with the stock market? Cash that I'm pulling out. Well, even if the market is going up in the stock market, one, the housing market's going up with it. Again, it's not the opposite like people think. But two, every 10 grand in the stock market is $100,000 to $200,000 in real estate. And then they grow at the same pace. So real estate, stock market, it's kind of like compounding. You're so far ahead. Does that make sense? You guys already know that, but is this helpful? I just throw a lot at you guys. I'm so happy that Megan taped all that. Again, I just wanted to kind of just unpack the variables that could lead to a recession, talk about where we stand today versus a recession, talk about the housing market, where it is today, and the correlation between a recession and the housing market, and what this means for our clients. Does that make sense? Is this like as clear as mud right now? Yes.
A lot of people talk about how many people are moving to Charlotte, how many companies are moving to Charlotte and bring in jobs.
Absolutely.
How does that affect?
So there's always going to be people moving to Charlotte. Charlotte's one of the top 4 or 5 fast growing cities in the United States. So Christos was asking, there's a lot of people moving to Charlotte, a lot of new jobs here. Absolutely. Charlotte's never going to go down as much as a Chicago or New York or San Francisco or Miami. It's not a second home market, and it's not one of the major cities, and it's growing. But it's also not going to go up as much. So Charlotte, if the nation goes down 18%, Charlotte will probably go down 11, 12. So it won't go down as far. But this is all good news. Again, if someone's paying cash, they should look for the good deal and wait for the good deal. If someone's getting a loan, they should do it yesterday. And if someone's looking to sell in the next 5 years, they need to do that also today or yesterday or tomorrow. Is that helpful?
Yeah. So you're saying like people moving here, corporations bringing a lot of jobs, doesn't really prevent the housing market.
So a lot of that's media, right? So that's the emotional piece. You as a real estate advisor, you're reading that and you're like, wow, Charlotte's going to keep going up forever because I just read about 500 new jobs. Do you also read about every small business that shuts down and they lose 500 jobs? So that doesn't get as much media attention, right? Next year it will. The media, again, it just is what it is, right? Like when politics come into play, next year's an election year, you'll see a lot of the other side. You'll see how many jobs have been lost. versus gained. You'll see some cities like Charlotte that have gained jobs. You've seen other cities that have lost jobs. New York City, where do you think these jobs are coming from? These jobs aren't coming from Greece. These jobs are coming from other major cities in the United States.
Yeah.
So yes, Christos makes a great point. Charlotte's one of the strongest housing markets in the country. Use that to your benefit. Absolutely. I mean, we're actually, with DHG, like the cities that we're in are probably some of the strongest markets because you got Kansas City and Charlotte are very similar. We've been in cities like Atlanta and Central Florida, Brad knows that area, all very strong markets. Then you have an area like Pinehurst that is more of a, you know, a smaller market. So it doesn't go up as much, but it doesn't come down as much. So if you notice, you don't see us in New York City, you don't see us in San Francisco, you know, we're not in Chicago, we're not in the major, huge markets where someone buys last year and then 6 months from now they've lost their down payment and their equity. Charlotte's definitely a stable market. Absolutely. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
That makes sense? So yes, it helps every time 500 jobs come. You have to imagine there's probably what, you know, 2 million jobs in Charlotte. So relatively speaking, that has to happen. It's a small number. But it is one of the better markets. I'd rather be here than, you know, I know we're taping this, so I'm not going to talk about some markets that I'd probably not be in right now. But I'm Charlotte's one of the better markets. Is this helpful, guys?
So helpful.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions while we're together? Okay. Yes?
So lately I've been hearing on market commentary about negative interest rates, and we're headed towards negative interest rates.
Like other countries?
Yeah, and I said that we are on pace to hit that as well. How does a negative interest rate work?
Well, and so the question is, you know, there's a lot of countries now, more and more countries that have negative interest rates. And that's the inverted yield curve, where they're saying that that could happen from a savings standpoint, from an investment standpoint, which actually is good news from a real estate standpoint, where it's really bad for a recession to have negative interest rates. But if there's negative interest rates, guys, I remember when savings accounts, some of you guys were too young, but I remember when savings accounts were like 3-4%, that was a joke, by the way, I was laughing. I remember when savings accounts had like 3-4% interest rates, now it's like 0.1%. So could interest rates go negative in the United States? Absolutely. That'll just be a part of the recession. But it also could be a positive for real estate. Because instead of people putting all, that's not mortgage though, you guys know that, right? Like that's, you know, that's on bonds, that's on savings, money market. Yeah, it's on the T-bills. It's on things that you can't touch. So then you take your cash and you move it. So yes, that absolutely could happen, Brad, and that just means there's a better chance we do have a recession because there's not confidence that they can give us a big return on the money because the banks don't want our money. The government doesn't want our money because they don't know what to do with it. They don't have confidence in any one sector right now. Companies are too high, and inflation's not where it should be. Real estate's too high. See where I'm going with this, guys? We don't have enough exporting. So where's that money going to go? You know, they don't want to borrow that money. And so where are you going to put your money? Christos is going to put it in a shoebox. But some of y'all should put that into buying a good deal, locking a low rate, and just making a minimum down payment. Again, you shouldn't have debt, guys. If you have credit cards, pay them off. Car loans, student loans, pay them off. Our clients need to pay all that off. If you're talking about putting a lot of money down on a house, I would challenge them to pay off all their debt, put the minimum down on the house, because real estate's the only good debt. You can always sell the house and get that money back, and real estate's leverage, right? We already decided that real estate grows the same pace as stocks, but with leverage, so it actually grows exponentially more. So if someone's looking to put down 50 grand, maybe put down 30, and you know what 20 grand could do to a credit card payment? That 20 grand, how much does it really move the needle? $100 on a house payment? The 20 grand can move the credit card payment $300 and relieve a lot of stress in your own household. You see where you have to be the expert, guys, like be the trusted advisor? We talk about being the expert so often, but how are we really the friend if we're not the expert? It's kind of like being the financial advisor who tells someone to put 100 grand into these stocks and bonds and they're not having the conversation we just had. Why on earth would you put 100 grand into stocks right now? Where should you put 100 grand right now?
Shoebox.
Mattress or shoebox? Okay, cool. It's good, guys? Awesome. You know, I love you guys. This is our tribe. So, all right, we're done. Is that when you like send off?
Wrap them.
Is that helpful, guys?